Jethro Tull, How a Passion Play Changed Tull Forever. In this video, what I'd like to do is look back at Jethro Tull's career from 1972 to 1974 and how a passion play and the fallout backlash from the album impacted on the band. So, spin me back down the years to the days of my youth. Back in the early 1970s, I was a massive Tull fan, and most of what I talk about here is from my memories of that time. In 1972, Jethro Tull seemed to be on the crest of a wave. Thick as a Brick, released in the March of that year, had been well received by the critics and fans alike, and had reached the dizzying heights of #1 in the American album charts. Tull were also becoming one of the biggest concert draws on the planet, breaking box office records wherever they played. Few bands on the planet back then could match Tull's musicianship or his consummate showman. As 1972 drew to a close, it was reported in the music press that Tull were going to record a new album at the 18th century Chateau de Hérouville in France. The decision turned out to be disastrous. Right from the very beginning, the band were beset by technical difficulties. The recording equipment kept breaking down, and trying to get it fixed, given the chateau's isolated location, was near-nigh impossible. The accommodation and the food were terrible. Everyone in the band went down with some sort of food poisoning, given one member, I think Barrymore Barlow, to rename the building as the Chateau de Hérouville. Anderson and the band decided enough was enough and to head back for home and the comfort of Morgan Studios in London. Anderson says they decided to dump most of the Chateau material and start again with a clean slate rather than try and re-record the Chateau material, though a few Chateau pieces were used for the new project, A Passion Play. When I listen back to those Chateau tapes, I'm convinced that if the band had managed to finish that project, to record it in the way that they wanted to, and released what they said was going to be a double album, I am absolutely sure that that would have been one of the albums of the decade, because the material is just amazing. Sadly, it was not to be, and in the March of 1973 they started recording A Passion Play at Morgan Studios. A completely new project, or was it? Anderson had this to say to the New Musical Express on the 24th of March. Passion Play was recorded almost a year ago, but the music changed a lot after we taped it. So after a few months, we decided to do the whole thing again. Thank God we're in a financial position where we were able to re-record, in spite of the high costs. That's why Passion Play has been a long time on the way. The interviewer asked, can he see a time when Jethro might return to albums built not on a theme but as a collection of songs in the old tradition? Anderson replies, I don't think so. We're very satisfied with what we're doing now. Of course, we play music lasting for 3 to 5 minutes, but today it's phrases within the whole work. After cancelling 2 UK shows at Wembley's Empire Pool in April, Tull rescheduled the shows for the 22nd and the 23rd of June, and they would be playing the whole of Passion Play. Both nights, Tull were incredible. A Passion Play was this mind-blowing ride of superb musicianship, breathtaking musical twists and turns by a band that never missed a cue or hit a bum note. Anderson himself was on fire, twirling that silver flute and conducting the band like some crazed ringmaster. And when A Passion Play finished, Tull played what seemed like another show, packed with all the old favourites, and at the end of the night, the whole crowd was on their feet cheering. It was just an amazing couple of gigs. But the music press thought different. To a man, they all slammed the show. One headline read, A Play Without Passion. Crime of Passion was another. I can't remember one positive review. Where were those guys? I suspect in the bar. The music press in Britain did a lot of that back then. They build a band up, and when they got to a certain peak of popularity, they pulled the rug, or tried to pull the rug, from underneath them. It must have been particularly tough for those critics to swallow that straight after those shows at Wembley, Tull went back to the USA and continued to break box office records week in, week out, though even there the reviews were not that great. Passion Play the album was released in the UK on the 13th of July 1973. I didn't want to read any reviews until I'd had a chance to listen to the record for myself. I must have listened to that record at least once a day for the next year. I absolutely loved it, and even today it's still one of my all-time favourite albums, and you put it on and I can just fall straight back into it. Surely those critics must see the brilliance of this record. Sadly again, no. Passion Play rattles with emptiness, littered with barbaric riffs. Anderson's musical ambitions have overreached his competence and judgment this time, and another one, expensive, tedious nonsense. But the fans continued to flock to the concerts as A Passion Play became the biggest concert draw on the planet. It always put a smile on my face when I read the Melody Maker headline. On the 4th of August, 72,000 fans, can't be wrong. 72,000 fans had packed into the LA Forum over 4 nights to see Jethro Tull. No other band up to then had ever played for more than 2 nights at the 18,700 seat facility. But on the whole, it seemed like every rock critic on the planet wanted to put the boot into Tull. And you would think, from what they wrote and the way they reported the concerts, that the shows hadn't been a success at all. Back then, I used to go to a record shop in London's Soho district. They always had the latest and best bootlegs. And it was all a bit clandestine, it was all a bit cloak and dagger. You know, they made sure that no one was in the shop, and they'd take you into the back room and they'd have this huge amount of bootlegs. I always remember the vinyl that they were on. The weight of it felt like holding a dinner plate. But they were good recordings, and the guy never let me down. And listening to those Tull concerts on that Passion Play tour, the ones that had been so criticised, I didn't hear anyone booing, I didn't hear any slow hand claps, nothing more than the fans loving each and every performance. Even today, when you speak to people on the Jethro Tull forums who attended those 1973 shows, they all speak in glowing terms about what an amazing experience they had. But the Jethro Tull saga was about to take another twist, when on the 25th of August we had the headline in the New Musical Express, "Now Tull quit. Retirement forced by critical abuse." In a shock announcement this week, Jethro Tull joined the rapidly swelling ranks of the I Quit Brigade. Tull manager Terry Ellis, in a statement describing the decision as an indefinite retirement from gigs, appears to lump the blame squarely on the shoulders of the rock press and their critical abuse of the band's work. With Jethro's A Passion Play at #1 in the US charts, the band have cancelled all gigs planned after September the 29th, the final date on the 3rd section of their record-breaking American tour. Future Jethro activities will be centered around a movie to be made of a musical written by Ian Anderson. Ellis went on to say, "The group have been working continuously for nearly 6 years. During that time, their total recreation from concerts has not been more than 1 month. In particular, the effort they have put into preparing their concert appearances has been immense. The preparation of the music and production of A Passion Play began a 1.5 years ago and is, in their opinion, the best they have ever done. The abuse heaped upon the show by critics has been bitterly disappointing to the group, and, illogical as it may be to identify the opinions of reviewers with those of the public, has been increasingly difficult for the group to go on stage without worrying whether the audience are enjoying what they are playing." There will be a new Jethro album featuring mostly songs from the movie for release early next year. It is planned that the film itself, director and other featured actors have yet to be finalised and will be ready for release around autumn 1974. So, after one final concert on the 29th of September 1973 at the Boston Tea Gardens, Tull took some time out. I was bitterly disappointed. But this wasn't the end. We were going to get a new album from Jethro in 1974 and possibly a movie. From what I saw at the time, I felt that Ian took all the criticism to heart, and it seemed to wound him very, very deeply. So Tull had retired, or had they? In early 1974, Ian Anderson and Chrysalis convened a press conference in Montreux, Switzerland. This is what Anderson had to say. "We've asked you here to clear up the confusion that seems to have followed the group's decision to retire from concerts at the end of last year, to clear up any misunderstandings that the group might have split up. To be specific, we've been making 2 albums, recording in London. One is a group album, the other is a soundtrack for the upcoming Jethro Tull feature film, War Child. No gigs planned at the moment, but they are certainly not ruled out. We have, at least for 2 years, been looking for a movie situation that we could use to get into something more subtle than the group can achieve on stage." Anderson went on to talk about a passion play. "The thing that annoyed me was that people seemed to dismiss it casually, whereas it was a record that took a lot of time to make and needed time to listen to. It didn't seem like the critics were prepared to take that time. Personally, I think the music on the last album was our best written, best conceived, and possibly our most commercial as well. But it maybe wasn't too easy to get into first time around." July 1974, and things started to take a better turn. Tull played a series of concerts in Australia, New Zealand and Japan. I think about 23, 24 concerts all in all, and from the few recordings of those shows available, it showed the band were back to their very best. And on the 14th of September 1974, I got the news that I really wanted to hear. Sounds magazine in the UK reported, "Tull full-scale return." In Los Angeles last weekend, Ian Anderson gave the go-ahead for a full-scale return to concert appearances for Jethro Tull. Anderson was on his way back to the UK after a 5-week tour of Australia, New Zealand and Japan. The tour had been arranged to allow the group to check out their own feelings about touring again. It is now almost a year since Tull announced their indefinite retirement from live appearances. Due to the pressure of work, the restrictions of a constant touring schedule, and not least the disappointment they felt after the strongly negative critical reaction to their Passion Play concert and album. 6 weeks later, Tull's new album War Child hit the record stores. 10 days earlier, the entire first side had been played on UK radio, on BBC One in the UK. At the time, I was very, very disappointed. I wanted another Passion Play. It took me a long, long time to warm to War Child. This wasn't the Tull that had stunned and amazed me the previous year. I guess I was so much into Passion Play, and I still was. By 1974, October 1974, I was still into Passion Play, and it was still blowing my mind. And then War Child, it just didn't grab me at the time. The album seemed bitty, disjointed, and just thrown together. But over the years, I've grown to love the album, and I was playing it the other day just for the purposes of this review, this piece, and it just really got me, especially when you add in, all the outtakes, all the orchestral stuff. It's just a brilliant body of work. War Child was shock horror, in fact, warmly received by the music press. One said, while not achieving the heights of stand-up and benefit, War Child is definitely a return to former glories. On November the 14th, 1974, I saw Jethro Tull at London's Rainbow Theatre on the War Child tour, and they were brilliant. Don't get me wrong, their performance was better than 99% of any other rock bands ever. But from where I stood as a young man back in 1974, it just seemed something was missing. It seemed like they toned it down a bit for the critics, maybe for the record company, I don't know. But they toned it down a little bit. They weren't taking those chances and putting themselves out on a limb that they'd done with Passion Play, which added to the performance. And like I said, it wasn't quite the same, but hands up, they were brilliant. Over the years, Ian seems to have distanced himself from the album, only playing the briefest of snippets in concert. In 2023, A Passion Play reaches 50 years old, and I wonder if Ian has anything planned to commemorate that landmark. Ian also says that the album suffers from being over-arranged, over-produced and overcooked. And in one interview a few years back, he says, "I really wish I hadn't done it." Martin Barre feels the album was unnecessarily complex. He says there wasn't one gig where he didn't make a mistake. It was a good experience, but I wouldn't want to do it again. But Barrymore Barlow shares the same opinion as me. The album holds some really fond memories, with the band on top form. It represents the high point in the Tull catalogue. It also serves as a fond reminder of the time when Tull was very much a band, daring, caring and sharing. But at the end of the day, I think we should all remember one thing. Hare didn't care. The lost spectacles were his own affair. And after all, he did have a spare pair. Thanks for listening, and there'll be many more videos on Jethro Tull to come. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you in the next video. And please like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us, helps me build an audience. Thank you so much.